G'day everyone. Okay, so sorry we've been without a video for a little while. This is intended to be part 1 of the mod series that I'm doing. The other one was part 2 that you'll now see, was sort of just to gauge whether there'd be any interest in this, and well, I'm back, so obviously there was. Now today it's going to be a little bit different because I'm basically going to be going through with you some of the more basic points of modding. So for those of you that are a bit more advanced already and started making stuff, this video is probably not for you. By all means, keep watching because it could be a bit of a refresher for you, or it could show you a couple of things that you may not have known already. Basically, we'll get started. What I want to go through with everyone is an understanding of how a mod is structured. And so it's quite simple. A lot of the videos that are already out there on YouTube, they only tend to deal with modding the base game, and while the same sort of rules apply, I certainly found that while I was doing modding to start with, I found it difficult to follow by not actually seeing someone else's mod being changed. It was more, here's how we do this to the W900 that's in the base game, and so on and so forth. Maybe that was because I was a bit simple when I started out, but some people are like that. So I'm hoping that this video will help those who are just getting into modding to understand a bit better how the game reads each of the files, and this in turn will help you in the end when you're modding to actually do a good job of what you're doing and make sure that you're putting stuff in the right place and that you're not coming up with tons and tons of errors. You know, I see so many times that people open up the game and they think, oh yeah, beauty, what I've got is showing and everything's looking great, but if you were to open up their game log, you'll see that it's just full of errors of all different kinds. Now I've got to admit, lately there's been some errors that have been attributed to the latest update that ATS did, which is 1.35. I'm not running DX11, so unfortunately I can't help anybody with any issues regarding that, because I tried to do DX11 and it didn't work. My computer completely gave up and crashed on me when I tried to do some modding. So till I learn a bit more about that, and till I'm definitely sure that that's the way that the game is headed, yeah, I'll just stick with DX9 for now. Alright, so first up, for anybody who hasn't done any modding before, they probably know the basic thing, which is your mod folder. Now, when you first install the game, now this was ages ago for me, so I can't quite remember, but when you first install the game and you go to Documents and then American Trucks, or this also applies to Euro Truck Simulator as well, so, but when you go to American Trucks, this folder, mod, doesn't exist. Okay, so if you're going to put any mods into the game that aren't from the Steam Workshop, you need to create a folder called mod inside this American Truck Simulator directory. So that'll be in your Documents folder, or wherever you've set your Steam, no, not Steam, sorry, where the game installs its profiles and stuff like that. For everybody, it's probably going to be different, but it's inside documents, and then American Truck Simulator for most people, and then you just make a folder called mod. And then anything that you do that changes the game in some way, shape, or form will be installed in here. Now, one thing to note, that I've actually recently learned this myself. Once upon a time, SCS used to require all mods be a .scs file, which is basically like their own form of a zip file. They've since, I can't remember when, because as I said, I've only learnt recently, they've since changed that to the point where the game can now read just regular unpacked files, and sometimes it actually even reads unpacked ones better than it reads the packed ones. I've had texture issues with some mods when they're packed, because when they're packed they've been compressed. I've also had issues with sounds and stuff like that when they've been compressed. But anyway, that's getting a little off topic. So that's your mod folder. So that's where anything that you mod is going to go. So we'll close that for now. Now I've got 3 mods that I've picked here. This is just it's to give you an example of basically that every mod you do will follow the same theoretical structure. Not sure why that's in there. Yeah, it'll follow the same structure, and what it's actually doing, when you're making a mod, you're editing the base game. So you're adding a layer on top of the base game that the game will read instead of reading what it came out with. So you'll see that some of them don't have exactly the same structure, or there's extra folders in there. That's not to worry. That doesn't mean something's missing. It just means that sometimes the model or whatever is using a different component that's already in the base game, and it doesn't need an extra folder to be made. But yeah, the basic structure, as you can see, you'll have automat, which what this is, if we go into it, these are the material files that are created when someone makes a mod in Blender. Now, again, I'm not very versed when it comes to Blender. I do understand some of it, but I can't go into great detail. But basically, when you export a mod in Blender, as far as I know, the SCS tools automatically make these material files, hence why it's called automat. The def folder, so this is referred to as definitions, basically. So this is telling the game in a written format that it reads and goes, okay, this is where I need to find this file. So if we go have a look in the def file, now usually you've got a camera folder in there. It's pretty self-explanatory. That just tells the game the position for the camera for the vehicle that you're using. But vehicle is the main file that we play with. In here, all these are they're the hookup points for the different things that are on the trucks. Might go into that later. I haven't really had much of a look at them. But again, this is the folder that we focus on the most, and that's truck. So if we go in here, this is usually the name of the truck. So we'll go def on that one, vehicle, truck. Okay, so as far as the game's concerned, the truck is called, in this one, the Internat 9800, and in this one it's called the Volvo.F88. But as you can see here, This is also using existing parts from a ETS vehicle, but because this is not in ATS, ETS2 vehicle, but because it's not in ATS, they've put that, they've taken that out of the ETS2 base and put it in there because it's required by this new truck. Now if we go into the truck folder itself, this all looks probably pretty daunting to new people who have never done this before, and like I said, I'm happy to answer questions and help people out where needed. But you've got the accessory, so this is quite self-explanatory. So this is, whoops, if we go into accessory and you look at this and you go, oh my god, there's lots of stuff in there and I have no idea what any of it is. When you first look at this mod, you'll run for the hills because you'll think, what have I gotten myself into? But once you start modding, you will start to understand that these are basically the name that the game looks for the different parts. So, you know, if you're adding a bull bar to a truck, which is a bad example here because it doesn't seem to have it. Oh, F. So on most of the trucks that I mod, there'll be a folder called bumper, but on this particular one they've called it F_bump. But that's pretty explanatory. Just hang on a sec. Oh dear. My cat didn't want to stay in my room. Okay, so this is where all your accessories go. So your fuel tanks, your bumpers, your snorkels, anything that you want to add, this is where they go. And so we'll go into one of them, for example. So we'll go into F bumper, and each item is given a name. So you have, usually there's shape 1, shape 2, shape 3 or whatever, but someone's named it something different here. But when you go into the def file itself, okay, hang on, no. What you can see here is the definition file references, it tells the game, hey, this is where everything is. So if we have a look at this now, we see that shape 2, this is the name of the file that we're in. So if you're making a mod and for some reason this says shape 4 or something like that, but the file here is called shape 2, you're going to have an error. It's going to come up wrong. So it needs to be the exact same name as the file that you're actually editing. So this one, Volvo.f88, is the name of the truck folder. So from def vehicle truck, you got Volvo F88, and then it already knows that it's in the accessories folder, and you'll see that here the dot references the next line for the next folder, and then it's called F_bump. So when you're editing in the def files, it's good to have the folder open in the background so that you can reference the folder structure and make sure that you're editing the def file correctly. So when it says name, this name is how it appears in the game. So when you're actually inside the game and you're selecting the part, it will be called the Vorschlahammer Chrome. I didn't pronounce that properly, I'm sure. The price, quite obviously, this is the price that the game will charge you to put on that part. The unlock, you change this number for whatever level you want this part unlocked at. So if you want it unlocked straight away and you're on a new game, 0. That'll do fine. But if for whatever reason you're trying to make it a part that you yourself want to access, but you have to work for it, change it to level 20. Doesn't matter. The icon is something I've not really played with much, because unless I'm really putting a lot of effort into a mod, the icon file's not something you really want to change. If it's a bumper, there's already, this is already a standard picture of a bumper. If you wanted to add the picture of your actual bumper, you could do that too, but we'll go into that at a later date. Exterior model. So again, quite simple. So this tells the game, hey, the bumper I'm looking for is in vehicle, truck, upgrade, F_bumper, Volvo F88, and then the file I'm looking for is called frontbumper02.pmd. PMD is the name, the file type for all the models that we make for ETS2 and ATS. It's SCS's own model type. When it says variant, now this is the other thing. So this front bumper _2, if we went into it, I can't get Zmoddler at the moment for some licensing reasons. I don't understand why, so I can't really show you. But if we were to go into front bumper 02, you would see that there would probably be one variant called chrome and one variant called paint or something similar. And that's just what you're changing here. So when you're in Zmoddler, there's a little bar over the side here. It gives what I believe Zmoddler refers to as a scene state, and you can change that between whatever Zmoddler says it is. So if it's chrome or paint, you just go here and you change to paint. But you have to make sure that when you enter that variant, it's case sensitive, and it has to be exactly the same as the variant that's inside the actual model itself. I thought that look actually meant the same thing as variant. It does on all the ones I've played with, but anyway, this will be something very similar, and I can't say I've seen that in any of the ones that I've done. But yeah, it's quite simple. Just have a read through your def files, pick your favourite mod apart is what I recommend. Just if you've started playing with a mod recently and you want to know the inner workings of it, go through every folder. Don't look in one window and go, oh my god, there's 50 folders there, I could never possibly go through it. Modding is a process that takes a long time, and you really need to put some time into it. And as I said, I can't recommend enough that you research the file structure. You'll have a better understanding of how a mod works, how it talks to the game, what parts are involved in it, and so on. So if we go back to the base mod directory for this F88, the next file is called material. Generally this is your environmental files. So this material is metal, so it's got a brushed metal texture in there. Your UI for those of you that don't know, is your user interface. So if we go to accessory, what were we in? Front bumper, Volvo F88. So this is where we change the picture for the icon for what you're making. The sound, it's quite self-explanatory if you want to play with the sounds of the truck. Believe that most vehicles use sounds that are in a good grief, I can't remember now. OGG file, that was it. The OGG file, and they're split up between external sounds and internal sounds in that same way. And again, when you're inside the def files, go in there, you'll see sound in there, and that reference, so that'll go exterior, and then that'll reference those OGG files that we were looking at before. See, start OGG, start bad, and so on. Now obviously this is a very shortened introduction to the mod structure, and I apologise if I'm boring anybody with it, but you really do need to go in here and have a look and understand how a mod works before you go, oh yes, I want to put a bumper on my truck, or oh yes, I want to make sure that I put a new engine in my truck, or something like that. You need to understand what you're doing first, and the best way to do that is to go through your existing mod and see how it works. And then finally, the main folder is vehicle. Share is quite simple. This is anything that it happens to share with the base game directory. Truck is the one that we usually use. Now we can see that this Volvo is made up of parts of a DAF XF, a MAN TGX, a Scania, and then those are the three parts that it shares, or the three trucks that it shares parts with. Upgrade, so this is basically the folder that any of your accessories go in. So if you're going to add bumpers, or you're going to add tanks, or you're going to add snorkels, exhausts, anything like that, they all go in here. And with your def files that we were looking at before, this is what it's referencing when it's saying, hey, I need to find, so we're going to the front bumper, I need to find vehicle, truck, upgrade, F bumper, Volvo F88, and then I think it was front underscore bumper 2. And that's how it knows that's the file I'm looking for, and then it'll look for it. And then the rest of the mod's pretty simple. So the manifest, this basically just tells the game, this is the icon for the mod, this is the author, the display name in-game. You can create a package version if you want to. And then this one tells the game, for the description of the mod, please see this file here. Now in this case it's called mod underscore description, but it can be called anything.txt, and that'll be in the base of your mod here. And then yeah, it's just a description of the mod. Sometimes people add colors to it, and so this would come up in orange, so on and so forth. So yeah, that's the base for any mod. And like I said, I'd just recommend going through and having a good look at how a particular mod works. Now, as I said, the base file of the game, it has all of these folders and then some. And that can be a very daunting task to look through that and try and figure things out. But if you're going through just a mod, you're seeing what this person has changed inside the game to make their Volvo F88 or their International or their K100. Okay. So the other part of today is doing our the bumper that we put on the Western Star beforehand. And I'll show you some things that happen when you don't do stuff properly. So because this is not a whole truck, that's why we don't see all of these folders here. Because the thing is, and a lot of people do this, they don't understand where different parts of their mod come from, and they end up copying an entire mod over into this folder here, and then a whole bunch of useless stuff is duplicated for no apparent reason. But what we're doing is we were just putting a bumper on the Western Star 4800. So all we need at this stage, if we were going to make this a mod available on the Steam Workshop, we would want to have the manifest, some form of mod description, and a mod icon included in this. That way when someone downloads it off the Steam Workshop, they see what picture of what the mod looks like, or a title splash screen that you've done or something like that, and then they can also get a description that you write out. But if you're just modding for yourself and you don't particularly care about that sort of stuff, that's fine. Just copy the folders that you need. And so in this case, vehicle, so this is where all of the information that we have is stored for this particular model, which was the bumper. And so I showed you how to add the bumper to how to fix the texture errors on the bumper, but this is how to actually add the bumper to the truck. So this is assuming that you've extracted the model using Zmod, you've put the textures back on it, or you've used the existing textures from, in this case, the Kenworth T908. Just watch the part 2 video if you don't understand any of that. This is supposed to be before that. This is how we actually add the model to the truck. So if I go in here and I've created the SII file. So again, we'll use our Volvo as our bit of a reference here. So essentially, this is the base. This is this bit. We've got the def file. Got the def file here. We've got vehicle. We've got vehicle there. But the only one we need, because we're just adding a part, is truck. Going to truck here. The truck in this case, in the original model, is called 4800W. And this is the equivalent to Volvo.F88. Accessory is what we want because it's an added part. And then like this, so this one was called F_bump. This mod refers to it as, for this particular truck, bumper_WS. And once again, this is the exact same thing as we went into before with shape 2, except for this file, this is just for ease of doing this properly, I called it tut. So if we go in here and then we go into shape 2, we can see that they're basically the same thing. So up here we have tut. So this is the name of the file. Then we put a dot, 4800W. This is the name of the truck folder inside truck. It knows it's an accessory, so it'll automatically reference that folder. Bumper underscore WS. And so that's in there. The name, again, this is what comes up in game. Now when you put these little @ symbols here, I think no matter if you put capital letters here or not, it will automatically put capitals in front of it for you if you put those @ symbols. I can't quite remember. We've got our price, just some arbitrary figure that I picked there. Unlock it at level 0. Icon is something that basically all the bumpers for this particular truck had WS4800 as the icon. And then the exterior model. So again, this is referencing where inside our mod it comes from. We put the / at the start here. Effectively, if you wanted to, you could put the exact location in there, but what this is reading is from, as I said, this is laying over the top of the base file for the game. So the game is going to, as standard, go open the base, and then from base it goes to vehicle, it goes to truck, it goes to upgrade, and then it sees, oh okay, I'm going to bumper, and then inside bumper you've got bumper 02. And so if I go back here, vehicle, truck, upgrade, bumper, and there's bumper 02. So as long as this, let's recap, as long as this is the same name as your def file, this is the same as the truck folder with inside your defs, and this is the same as the accessory folder with inside your defs, this will work. Oh, and also this has to be the exact path to here. No spelling mistakes, no extra numbers, letters, or anything like that. Has to be exactly the same path. And then the game will go, hey, that's where it is, and it will show up the bumper in game. Yeah, so that's pretty much how any of the items that you're going to make in game are done. And this is not just for bumpers, this is for anything. Any accessory that you want to add to the game. As you start getting into some of the other stuff like chassis and sounds and that, most of it stays the same. Some changes are there as well. But again, anything you want to try and do and you're not sure, by all means go and look at some other videos on YouTube. That's pretty much how I learnt. I had no help from other people. I didn't have the opportunity to watch a video that explained in depth how things work. But that's what I'm offering to you for my Mods Gone Astray page. If you want to message me and say, hey, how do I do this? I will try and find the time to help you, to help yourself, to figure out how to do things. Yeah, so I hope that helped anybody that's just starting out with modding. Now, for those people who are already not experienced modders, but you know, they do a few parts every now and then, and they're just not quite up to scratch on some of the details, I still recommend watching the video because you may just learn something that you didn't know. The other final thing to look at is when you're doing any mod, go into the game for a minute. Just go continue. Now I explained this in my second video, but when you're doing any mod, this is going to be your biggest friend, the console. I'm not going to show you how to enable that because there are a million videos on YouTube on how to do it. But once you've enabled the console, they've changed the console somewhat. It used to be just a 2D screen up here with just the writing in it. Now they've added the ability to separate errors and warnings, and this is the base game running at the moment, so there's absolutely nothing there. But when you make a successful mod, there should also be absolutely nothing there. So if you see something, this console can help you figure out where you went wrong. Now for those of you that don't want to access the console using the game itself, if you go into your American Truck Simulator folder within your documents, you can go to game.log, and this is the exact same thing, but this means you manually have to go through everything. This doesn't have the ability to separate the errors from everything else. Sometimes it can be better to go through it that way. Sometimes it can be better to look in the game. It depends what you're doing. But yeah, it's quite simple. The console is this is showing you what the game's doing at each interval. You know, here it's just gathering all the settings for all the different things that are in the game. If we go back further up, there's all this stuff unmounted and that. These are all the mods that are in a folder. It's saying, right, I'm looking for this, I'm looking for this. This one's unmounted, it's been repaired, so on and so forth. And then you'll get warnings and errors. So this one's just the game no longer calls this particular type of thing wheels. They may have changed the name to wheels _ ATS or something else, and this mod no longer works because that's showing the wrong thing. But yeah, as I said, there's lots more videos out there on how to use the console and stuff like that. But as far as modding's concerned, it is an invaluable tool. I would not recommend trying to mod without it, because all you're going to end up with is errors and lots of frustration. Okay, so thank you to anybody who actually sat through my boring rambling. I promise I am going to make another video probably later this week that's got a bit more to do with Zmod. I have to actually get in and fix my licensing issue that's in there, but I believe that's something that's common with Zmod at the moment. But nonetheless, yeah, thank you for watching. Like the video if you want. I'm not a big YouTuber, as I said in the previous video, and I'll say it in this one. I'm not a professional. I'm probably low on the totem pole when it comes to knowing what I'm doing. But in saying that, I try and take pride in the work that I do, and anybody who starts modding, you should really do that too. It'd be good to have the community be a bit more of an inclusive place, and people helping each other, and that's why I started making these videos. Anyway, yeah, thanks for watching. Like the video, subscribe if you want to. It's just my personal channel for now, but yeah, I'll probably make another video this week, I'd say. It all depends on my work situation. Okay, thanks guys. Bye bye.